Do get my headphones on. Check testing. How are we here? Get set up here before we get going. Make sure we're good to go. One more minute and we will start the show. Live on YouTube. And we have someone in listening. Glad to have you. Comment. Please drop a comment if you could. Oh, no, you're gone. There's no one here. There is someone here. There we go. It is 7:30 and time to start the Too Tall Sports Show. Let me get to that. All right. Thank you for joining me today. I always appreciate it. We are live on Colorcast and YouTube. We are YouTube Live, Too Tall Sports Podcast YouTube channel, and on Colorcast, Too Tall Sports. You can find us there. It is my weekly show where I talk about the biggest topics over the past week that I saw, especially right now, this time of year, NFL and college football. We'll do a lot of that. Just to give you the rundown, I'm going to talk about Kansas City a little bit. We're going to talk about Buffalo. We're going to talk about, I went to the Chargers and Browns game, arguably the best experience of my life as far as football in person. So I'll talk about that. Going to get to a little Odell Beckham trade talk. I think it's valid, and I think he needs to move on, and the Browns need to move on from him. I'll get into that. If I have time, I'll hit the Tyson Fury fight against Deontay Wilder. It was a great fight. I got to watch it through a stream, which I was very lucky to see. But I got to watch at least the end of it, so I checked that out. Big weekend for college football. Nick Saban obviously lost for the first time to a former assistant, which he was 24-0. We talked about this last week going into this game. I did not think this was going to be the one he loses. So he did lose. Georgia's number one now. We'll get to that. Iowa had a big win against Penn State. We'll get there. Also, if I have time to talk baseball, it's hard to keep up with all the games that are going on, but the live show I can talk at least in the moment. The Dodgers are playing right now against the Giants, and they are up 2-0 last time I checked in the fourth or fifth inning. Still hate the Astros, but we can talk about them a little bit if you'd like. And then we can talk about the shocking Red Sox beating the Rays and moving on. That is insane. I thought they were going to get swept. The Brewers lose, so we're going to talk about that. Talk about the Braves moving on. Thank you guys for joining me. Glad to have you guys. Thank you on Colorcast, the Commissioner and Julia. Give me some questions in the chat. If you want me to hit them, I'll answer them. I'm going through my rundown, and we'll definitely talk about that stuff. So feel free to jump in on those. And maybe if I have time, a little Ben Simmons at the end as well. Apparently, he's trying to go back to Philly. It's a mess. I don't know why, but we will get there if I have time. But I want to do heavy NFL. We'll get there. NBA MVP already, the commissioner? It's early for that, man. NBA MVP this year. Yeah, Simmons' situation is awful. I'll get to the Simmons thing later if you want me to talk about it. You might have to remind me to hit that. But I want to do heavy NFL first, and then no, that's all good. No problem at all. I just love that you're chatting with me. I appreciate that. I'm glad you're here. So happy to have you in. Let me start with some NFL, then I'll get to the other sports. Real quick, let me think. NBA MVP this year. That is a tough call because if Kyrie doesn't play and Harden takes a step back, maybe KD gets it. I don't know. Thoughts on Zach Wilson? Whew. Damn. Hopefully you're not a Jets fan, Julia, because it's gonna be rough again as usual for the Jets. I think he's got a huge arm, but I think from what I hear, he doesn't really take the easy plays. He always goes for the wow kind of hero ball plays. So it's hard to – and the Jets are just a bad organization. Look at Sam Darnold. I know he had a bad week last week, but look at Sam Darnold with competent coaching and talent around him. The Jets are a complete mess. They can't get the coach right. They haven't got the quarterback right. He's not a bust yet, but he might be just because that organization is so bad. So, yeah, there's my take on the Jets. But feel free to keep the questions coming. Oh, man, you're 100% Jets fan. Yeah, I think there's always a bust in the first round of the draft. So maybe there's always a couple busts, actually. They don't always all pan out. That never happens. So something is pulling you. Yeah. we'll have to see if they can continue to pull you in, because I wouldn't buy a ticket to go watch them play right now. So I'll tell you that they should prove to you that they're worthy of your tickets. So, anyways, I can come back to those two things a little bit later. Let me talk about the Kansas City Chiefs. I'll start there. It is kind of funny that as soon as you start doing well and people love you, and then you start doing bad and people just can't wait to bring you down and crush you. And I think there's a Super Bowl hangover here with the Kansas City Chiefs. Obviously, Mahomes is throwing more picks than he ever has in his career in the first 2 months of the season. I think up until this year, he had never thrown an interception in September before. And so I think now Mahomes is kind of coming back to earth a little bit. And they're having a Super Bowl hangover, I think, because it's hard to repeat. And they've gone to 2 straight Super Bowls. They played more games. The people got to get paid. This is a classic tale of Super Bowl hangover for them. And at least they won one of them when they went, because the windows are small in the NFL. And now the Chiefs have paid Mahomes, so there's not enough money to go around all the time. So I think Kansas City's in a rough spot. Their defense is bad, really bad. They're one of the worst in the league, almost as bad as Seattle. I could talk about that situation too. But I don't know. The Chiefs got to figure out a way to fix their defense, or Mahomes is just going to have to overcome too much. So I still think they're good. They're going to be there at the end. The AFC West has just gotten better. And obviously the Raiders are in shambles. We can go into that. I don't really want to, but we could if you guys want to. The Broncos are a tough team. They're not great, but they're a tough team. But the Chargers are clearly the best team in the AFC West. And so it's not getting any easier for Kansas City. They can't just rely on Mahomes to make these crazy plays. And Tyreek Hill's getting double teamed now. And Kelsey might, it's hard to get all these guys going. So thank you for the likes. I appreciate it. I'm glad you guys like that take. Thank you for the update, Dodgers 11. Mookie, a home run. Mookie bomb, 4-0. Let's go. Yeah, Chiefs D-line. Exactly. They can't pay everybody, and they got to protect Mahomes, and that was the biggest issue in the offseason coming off that Super Bowl when Mahomes had no protection. So they got to pay somebody, and they went offensive line over D-line. So there you go. Thank you very much. I appreciate it, Anonymous Kangaroo. Thank you very much. Thanks for joining me. Hit me with your questions if you have them. Okay, so let's move on to the Buffalo Bills, who beat the Kansas City Chiefs last weekend. I am very impressed with the Buffalo Bills. They're probably the best team in the league right now, top to bottom, offensively, defensively. They're unbelievable. And yes, Josh Allen definitely is in the running for MVP with Justin Herbert, who I watched in person. I'll get to them in a second. This past weekend, I saw Herbert against the Browns. Craziest game I've ever seen. I'll get to that in a minute. But as far as the Bills go, I think they are a legit Super Bowl contender. That division's terrible. So they're going to run through, sorry, Julia, they're going to run through the Jets. They're going to run through the Dolphins, and they're going to run through the Patriots. I mean, the Patriots are okay. They're competent, but the Bills are ready. This is their time now. They've taken their licks a little bit the last couple of years. This is time. This is the Bills' time now. So I think the Bills have a legitimate shot to go to the Super Bowl. And I think Josh Allen could definitely win the MVP. Their defense is really good. They're blowing people out too. So I think they're the dark horse favorite for the Super Bowl. And I mentioned Justin Herbert, so let me move on to the Chargers. I went to the Chargers-Browns game this past weekend at the brand-new SoFi Stadium, so I got to experience 2 weeks ago, I went to the Rams game. They played the Cardinals, and I got to now experience the Chargers game at SoFi, both at the same stadium. Of course, the stadium's amazing. Don't have to go into that in too much detail, but I got to tailgate this time, and there were a ton of Browns fans there this weekend. It was actually pretty cool to see. The dog pound was out in full force. They're loyal fans, and I mean, if you live in Cleveland, this is a great trip to come out to LA to watch your team to escape, as they call it, the mistake on the lake out there in Cleveland. So I saw a lot of Browns fans come out this weekend. It was cool to see. And they have great fans. They were awesome. They weren't annoying or rude or anything like that. They were fun. So yeah, it was good atmosphere. And it was a crazy game. Like I said, probably the craziest live sporting event. One of the craziest, because the Chargers don't draw. There were plenty of empty seats, but it was probably the craziest football game I've seen in person. Justin Herbert was unbelievable. Absolutely unbelievable. Almost 400 yards with 4 touchdowns. He was incredible. Mike Williams, the receiver, he was catching everything. They had 2 long bombs to him that were great. And yeah, Herbert, no interceptions. He also ran one in for a touchdown. Austin Eckler was the X factor, as he usually is. 2 rushing, 1 receiving. And they just couldn't stop anybody, of course. The Browns just couldn't stop anybody either, so it went their way. But Baker Mayfield had a decent game. He 305 for 2 touchdowns, no interceptions. He played well. I was impressed with Baker. They just don't take a lot of huge chances down the field, and maybe the Derwin James was all over the place for the Chargers. But And Joku, the tight end, went off. Just my observation, I kind of wanted to go into this. I don't know what you guys think about Odell Beckham Jr., which I wanted to get to in a second. The commissioner says, let's not forget that my Cowboys threw down on. Yes, it was a close game, though. Let's not act like it was a blowout. So the only loss for the Chargers is to the Cowboys, and the Cowboys are legit. They got a defense now. They got the right coach, right? It wasn't a blowout, but it was a good game. So could I see the Cowboys and the Chargers in the Super Bowl? 100%. The Bills are in the mix, though. I don't want to discredit. I think the Bills are number one power rankings, if you will. Then probably Cowboys, then Arizona, and then Chargers, I would say. Those are my four, I would say. But I do think the Bills, Chargers, and Cowboys, and you got to give Arizona, they're undefeated still, so you really can't discredit them either. But I like what I'm seeing from the Chargers. They were incredible. I did want to get to Odell, though, like I mentioned. Real quick before I get to Odell. I didn't really know this about Brandon Staley, the coach of the Chargers. He goes for it on fourth down almost every single time they have a fourth down. And I was telling one of my buddies this. They were on 4th and 2, literally in their own red zone, like lower than the 20 to backed up to their end zone. And he goes for it on 4th and 2 and gets it. Just like I guess they say fortune favors the bold. That guy, Brandon Staley, the former defensive coordinator last year for the Rams, who did a great job there. It's crazy. Exactly. And honestly, it usually works out. And you talk about some of these conservative coaches and they coach scared and they don't want to get their offense. Just trust in your offense for once, right? You got a guy like Herbert. You got Eckler, Mike Williams, Keenan Allen. You got Jared Cook. Use these guys. Like, it's hard to stop people 4 downs in a row when you have a legit number one quarterback on your roster. So I was really impressed with Staley, the coach, going for it a lot, and they won. Now I'll get to Odell. Odell basically is a non-factor nowadays. He had 3 targets, 2 catches for 20 yards. He had a huge drop on 4th and 2 that was in the red zone. It's time for Odell to move on from the Browns. They play better without him. It worked, and it showed last year. He's clearly off with the chemistry. He has no chemistry with Baker Mayfield. They are completely on opposite ends of the spectrum. I think it's time for Odell to get traded and go somewhere else where they can use him. They don't even use him in Cleveland. He's a freaking decoy at this point. And I wanted to let you guys know, I saw a stat that was tweeted over the weekend. Since 2014, every single season, Odell's receiving yards have gotten lower and lower and lower. They've gone from 100 yards per game in 2014. That was like peak Odell. And now they're at 40 yards per game. He didn't even get that this past weekend. He got 30 yards. He's a non-factor. He's a big name that made a couple big catches and had a couple big years. And his name is bigger than his game at this point. There's no other way around it. So it's unfortunate when you see kind of the fall, but I think this is the beginning and the end of Odell Beckham. When you have a diva wide receiver, sometimes you feel the need to force the ball to them. And he's just not that guy. He's not that guy anymore, and they don't use him. This is a run-based team with Nick Chubb and Kareem Hunt. This is a run-based team, and he's not right for the Browns anymore. So I think at the trade deadline, they should make a move to get off of him. If you guys have any thoughts on that, let me know. Thank you, Commissioner. I appreciate that. I just don't see it. There's just nothing there between him and Baker. So I want to talk to some college football. Unless you guys have any more NFL questions, you can drop them in if you want to. But I wanted to move to college just because there were some big games this past weekend. Obviously, the biggest story of the weekend was Alabama losing, right? Nick Saban loses for the first time to a former assistant, Jimbo Fisher, and Texas A&M. I did not think that was the game he was going to lose. I think I talked about it last week, and I made a couple of videos on my social media at Too Tall Sports Podcast, by the way, on Instagram. And I made a video saying, I don't see Nick Saban losing to anybody until possibly Kirby Smart and Georgia in the SEC championship, or if he wins that game, they might meet again, Georgia with one loss in the college football playoff, But I did not see Texas A&M beating Alabama this early in the season. That was a total shock. So now Alabama's outside the top 4, so they're at number 5, looking in on Georgia at number 1, Iowa 2, who had a huge win over a beat-up Penn State team. And I talked about this last week. And yeah, Georgia, who knows? Maybe Georgia. I think Alabama, by the way, Commissioner, I think Georgia still will face Alabama, who will get back in the top 4 because they're going to probably still stay with one loss. But I would love to see Georgia get over the hump now with Kirby Smart. They're 0-3. I think I don't know if I talked about this last week or not. I'll give you another stat. Georgia is 0-3 against Saban in the Kirby Smart era. However, all 3 of those games, Georgia has led at halftime. So it tells you they're in these games. They just have to finish. So I think Georgia has a chance to do it this year. I agree with you guys. I think I talked about it last week. They crushed Arkansas 37-0 with a backup quarterback who threw 11 passes, and Arkansas was top 10 at the time. Georgia's for real. So we'll see if they can get it right. Iowa was lucky with Clifford got hurt. 100% totally agree with you. But hey, Penn State's usually overrated. Notre Dame, always overrated. Iowa, probably a little overrated now. They're just undefeated in a big conference. Cincinnati at number 3, undefeated. They get the benefit of that. Oklahoma, had a shootout with Texas. I don't know if you guys saw the Red River rivalry this past weekend, but that was a crazy game. So Oklahoma's still in it. Kirby Smart, the next USC coach? Or are you talking about James Franklin, the next USC coach, possibly? Yeah, I think anonymous. I think Georgia, I hope, will win. I don't want to see Alabama win again. I'd like to see Georgia win it all for once with Kirby Smart. Like, get over the hump for once. Oh, the Cincy guy, yeah, because the president of USC is a former Cincy guy. Yeah, that could happen. Not big enough name for me, but I'm sure not for you either. Finkel, got it. Yes, yeah, Luke Fickle. Yeah, kind of like Finkel and Einhorn. If you've seen Ace Ventura, Pet Detective number 2 or number 1, sorry. So anyway, yeah, that's my college football update there. There's some teams in the top 10 that definitely don't deserve to be there. It's just based on undefeated numbers and scheduling. But Georgia has a chance to win out, and I hope they do. So I don't think anyone is as close to Alabama and Georgia. I don't think Iowa's got a chance. Cincinnati's going to get crushed by somebody in the South. And Oklahoma, they're going to put up a fight, but they can't stop anybody, clearly. So enough about that. But I'd say at this point, I'd like to see Georgia take it all the way. That'd be cool for the sport, I think. Let me go to some baseball real quick. I still hate the Astros as a known Dodger fan, so I don't want to see them do well, but it's undeniable. They're still great. They're putting up the same number or even huge numbers on the road as far as runs scored, even at home. So I don't think they're cheating again, even though I don't want to like them. I'm not a fan of any of the Astros players, especially the guys that are still there that had to do with that. They never got punished, and I'm still not over that. So the Dodgers got a key win in the first 2 games, and they're playing right now, so hopefully it goes to a game 5. Scherzer had a great start last night in the wind. That was crazy, but they still lost. So, but let me get back to the Astros. So they're moving on, and the biggest surprise of the whole playoff so far has to be the Red Sox. I honestly thought, I think I said it last week as far as my predictions, I thought the Red Sox were going to get swept by the Rays. I thought the Rays were far and away a much better team and way more talent, way more prepared, everything. And the Red Sox beat them in 4 games, 3-1. I'm blown away by the Red Sox. I didn't think they had that much talent. I really didn't. I thought the Rays were going to repeat at least getting to the World Series again. I could see that. I thought they'd probably play the Dodgers or the Giants in the World Series. So I was very surprised by that. And I think it goes back to the Rays also just crushing playoff baseball. Surprise. Exactly. Like playoff Randy Arozarena all of a sudden, right? Stealing home and stuff. I thought the Rays were by far the best team in the AL. But now the Red Sox are going to get the Astros. Should be a great series. The Red Sox just have gamers. That was the point I was going to get to. You can analytic the hell out of everything. You got to watch the game. And I think the Red Sox, I hate to say former Dodgers, but Verdugo and Kike and, I wish we still had those guys. Obviously, to get Mookie Betts, we had to give up something. But I would have loved to sign Kike Hernandez back. He's just a gamer. And the Red Sox have gamers, and the Rays have numbers. And they play the numbers. And I don't know. The Red Sox just play free, I think. So we'll see how they do against the Astros. The Braves also surprised me. They lose Ronald Acuna Jr. earlier this year. I thought they were dead in the water. They had a terrible start to the year. And now all of a sudden they go against the Brewers team who's got all the pitching in the world, and they win the series. So the Braves and Red Sox, they just have gamers, man. It's just hard to explain. They got Freddie Freeman, obviously, the former MVP. So the reigning NL MVP who had a big homer tonight. I'm shocked. I thought the pitching for the Rays and the pitching for the Brewers was going to be way too much and overmatching these other guys, these other teams. But you never know. When you get a hot team in the playoffs, that's what you get. They're going to keep rolling. So it's pretty crazy to see the playoffs right now. I obviously would love to see the Dodgers move on and get those pesky Giants out of here. But it wouldn't surprise me if the Giants won at home for a game 5 because they were the best team in baseball all year long. They just were. And you can't really deny that. So props to the Giants for being as good as they were this year. Let's try to see. White Sox are disappointing. I really thought the White Sox, man, I thought they were going to, I guess, maybe wishful thinking that the White Sox would beat the Astros in this series. They got a lot of talent. They got old school Tony La Russa, who got into a division, championship. So kudos on that. But disappointing for the White Sox. I thought this was going to be there at least maybe a year to get to the ALCS. But that obviously did not happen. Let's see. I want to move on to, I can hit the Ben Simmons stuff. So Mr. Commissioner, I can go to that. I've ran through some of my material here, but I can also talk about J.R. Smith playing golf in college. We can talk about that. He actually played in his first tournament this past weekend. So if you want to get there, I can get there. As far as Ben Simmons goes, the guy was reportedly selling his house in Philadelphia to leave the actual Philadelphia area. He had no thoughts of coming back. And even Doc Rivers, when he was interviewed after that playoff game last year where they were eliminated, he was asked if Ben Simmons could lead a playoff team as a point guard, and he said, I don't know the answer to that. Well, that was the beginning of the end of that situation. So I don't know why Doc wants him back. I don't know why he hasn't gotten traded yet. I thought the Portland Trailblazers had a perfect situation for him. You get rid of CJ McCollum because the Lillard-McCollum experiment ain't working, and they've tried it for 7-8 years now. It's not working. That whole Portland deal is not – they're good. They're just not good enough. It's not a championship team. So why not try something different? You get rid of McCollum, and you take Ben Simmons, who's much better defender, and you let Dame still be Dame. I don't understand what Philly's doing. You get all this stuff. This is like bringing Aaron Rodgers back. But, obviously Aaron Rodgers is way better than Ben Simmons at his position. But we don't have to go into that because Aaron Rodgers is the most talented quarterback I've ever seen. I just want to sneak that in there. Not the most accomplished, but the most talented. As far as Ben Simmons goes, this is what happens when you lose money and you start getting fined for missing training camp and practice. This is why you cave, and the players will always cave because they're going to lose money, and the team has the right to fine them if they don't show up for practice and training camp. So he's going to cave and come back. I think the Sixers want him to come back, boost his value, and then trade him at the deadline. That's what I see happening. It should have happened already. Excuse me. You don't want a negative black cloud hanging over your organization like that. Taking Peyton Manning in a fourth quarter shootout. Interesting. I still think Rodgers has way better arm talent, right? I think that's a given. He makes throws that other people just don't make. Peyton mentally probably better. But even Rodgers, he can work the line of scrimmage too, man. He can do that fake catching guys off guards, the calls, the hard count. He does it all the time. So, but I love Peyton. Yeah, the hard count. He does it all the time. He gets free plays. He gets undisciplined teams to jump off sides all the time. But Peyton's probably the most cerebral quarterback there is. So I would agree with you there. Anyway, back to Simmons. As far as Philly goes, they're not a championship team right now, currently constructed. They're just not. They got a lot of talented players, but I just don't think it'll be like the Butler situation. Yeah, but see, Butler's a tough guy. He actually has a tough personality. Ben Simmons is not that guy. Ben Simmons acts like when I watch Ben Simmons, it looks like he doesn't care that much about basketball. And I love the videos in the summer of Ben Simmons making jumpers. But I've seen this movie before. He does this every summer where he's hitting jumpers in training camp and in the off season in the summertime. Do it in the freaking game. I don't see it translate. If you can shoot so comfortably in practice, why can't you shoot in the game? I don't get that. He's got a terrible stroke. It's ugly. It's not repeatable. It's I don't know. I'm not a believer in the Ben Simmons experiment there. I think they need to move on. Let Joel Embiid be the guy. They're basically similar players because Simmons can't get out of the paint. He has to be in the paint to score. And Embiid's in the paint. Tobias Harris is good, not great, very overpaid. They are not a championship team currently constructed. And if you want to go here, let's see if Simmons come back, Hurts MVP. Yeah, and for sure. I think it will, but I don't think the Sixers are going to win as many games without Simmons. I hate to say it. A lot of regular season wins will stack up. It's just Simmons isn't good. It's not a playoff player. So, Commissioner, let me know what you think about this. I don't know how your thoughts are on Doc Rivers, but this is my hot take of all hot takes. Doc Rivers is the most overrated coach in NBA history. He has the most 3-1 series losses. I believe he has the most playoff losses. And other than that run with the Celtics that he had, He's had way too many superstars and way too many failures. I think Doc Rivers is the most overrated coach in sports, in any sport. And immediately when he got fired from the Clippers job, he was immediately given a job. Why? Because he has one championship and there aren't that many coaches in the league that have a championship. It literally took less than a week for him to get the Sixers job. It just shows you, it's like being a first round draft pick. When you get drafted that high, you get a lot of leeway and you get a lot of mistakes and time to fix those. I totally disagree with that. Dodgers 11, the Lakers are the best team. No, thank you. I totally disagree. The media likes saying his name. Dude is like exactly. And Doc Rivers, this also shows you, if you're really nice to the media, they will give you a pass. If you're really nice to the media, they will always give you a pass and be nice to you. Also, if you remember, hate to bring this up, the whole Donald Sterling situation, totally valid that he got banned for life, but that prolonged Doc Rivers as a coach for the Clippers. I have to say it. It's true. Let's see. Jumoke Davis. I've been pushing for a trade from the Sixers and Nets. Simmons for Kyrie, even with COVID. That's interesting. I did see that floating around a little bit. Kyrie for Simmons. I don't know. Does Philly want that Kyrie cloud coming in? Like, oh my God. I can't stand Kyrie now, dude. It's beyond. We know how talented he is, but it's not even worth the headache anymore. That guy will take a leave of absence whenever he wants for mental health, and I'm all about mental health and therapy and getting mentally right. But if we can't count on you, if we can't believe in you to be there for us and be part of, he's just not part of a team. It is a one-man band with Kyrie. That's all. It's just all about Kyrie all the time. He's just, why does it have to be so difficult? I don't understand. Commissioner says, I think any team could get at him for a steal, then sell a ton of jerseys and make a playoff run, blah, blah, blah. Yeah, I think the off-the-court risk is more of a risk. He's so gone now mentally. It's like Kanye West. I feel like we've lost him. And maybe it's making so much money. Maybe it's being under the microscope with LeBron. Who knows? Some guys just, and look, not saying everybody would be good at this. I have no idea. But I think it's just too much to deal with. It's like a diva wide receiver in the NFL, like Odell Beckham. It's just too much to deal with. I'd rather not, man. I'd rather not. I'd rather have everybody on the same page in the locker room, in the clubhouse. Let's just get with the program, you know? And you can feel about the vaccine however you want, but just, why do you have to be so rebellious? Why do you have to about every fucking thing? I don't get it. I'm sick of Odell. Odell. I'm sick of him too. Sick of Kyrie. What's his trade value? Can't be a darker cloud than Simmons. Yeah, right now. Well, I don't know. Jumo Davis. I think you could argue Kyrie's cloud is worse. And the Nets have a chance to win a championship. Like I said, I don't think Philly is a championship team, but I think the Nets are obviously a championship team, assuming all healthy and engaged and mentally and physically available. I don't think the Sixers are a championship team. I think that obviously the Nets are. I think the Kyrie stuff is way worse. Well, not way worse. It is a little bit worse than Simmons. I don't know if you give me your opinion on that, but I'd like to think, and thank you for my new people jumping in here. Let's see who we got. We got some new peeps in here. So thank you guys. Appreciate that. Feel free to drop any comments. I'll keep going and see what we got. Ben Simmons could provide defense for the Nets. Ben could be Magic 2.0. Maybe. But what Magic has is the personality. And when I watch Simmons play, I see no personality. I see no team leadership. I see a guy that I'm here to get paid and play basketball for fun. I'm not that invested in being the guy or a real leader with passion for a team. I see Ben Simmons that was drafted number 1 and he's gotten paid. I just don't see him being that guy. I don't think you can build a team around Ben Simmons. I know the talent's there. I know he's a phenomenal passer. He gets to the basket, both hands. I get that. I just think mentally he's not that guy. I don't think he cares that much. I think he's just there to play basketball, and that's good enough for him. I don't see the passion there. It seems Kyrie is not about basketball either. I agree with you. Talking about flat earth bullshit. Talking about the vaccine. And now I heard today on the radio, it's not about the anti-vaccine. It's about people losing their jobs because they didn't take the vaccine. Where are we going? Like, what is this? Like Scott Van Pelt likes to use that sound drop with Taylor Twellman, the soccer guy. What are we doing? Like, that's how I feel. What are we doing here? Like, what is Kyrie up to? Enough with this shit. I'm done with him, Like, it's so not worth it to have a guy that is that big of a problem in the locker room. That's like, let's just move on. I feel bad for Kevin Durant because he partnered with that guy. And it's just like, man, you totally whiffed. Kevin Durant could be so happy in Golden State right now, probably have 3 more rings. And even with Clay's injury, they probably could have won another one. Man, it's frustrating. And Harden had to force his way out of Houston to get there. It's just a freaking mess over there in Brooklyn. KD's been getting ripped off his whole career. You could argue that. You definitely could. He got out again away from Russ. But can you I felt bad for him in Oklahoma City. But now I don't feel – I love KD, by the way. I think he's the most talented player in the NBA, most unguardable player in the league by far. I think KD is that. However, he should never have left Golden State. How much of a better situation can it get? And is it that much of an ego where you really have to have your own team? Is that important to you to have your own team? He could have 4 or 5 championships, maybe 6 when it's all said and done. Oh, man, it's frustrating. Like, do you really need to go to Brooklyn and do your own thing? But it's really not even his own thing anymore. He's got Harden and Kyrie there. It's not like he's LeBron taking a bunch of scrubs to the finals. I think he totally whiffed on that. I think he got too sensitive. I mean, we all know KD is always usually too sensitive. But could you have asked for a better running mate or 2 than Clay and Steph? The 2 most unselfish stars in the league? I know Draymond's a pain in the ass. There's no question there. He would piss me off. All the technicals he gets, just being super loud all the time. He runs that offense. He's perfect for them, but I'd be annoyed by Draymond. But, man, could you have had a better situation? Brand new arena, the Chase Center in San Francisco on the Bay. Like, damn. So I don't feel bad for KD anymore, especially now that he's got Harden too. Like, he's stacking the deck wherever he goes, and everybody is now, so I can't fault him for that. But I don't necessarily feel bad for Kevin Durant once he left Golden State. I don't know what your guys' thoughts are on that. But I just don't, I'm not sure if I feel bad for Kevin Durant. If anybody wants to jump on the hot seat, I can bring you on Colorcast if you want to talk, or if you like the messaging part of it, we totally can do that. Also hit me up on Instagram at 2 Tall Sports Podcast. That's my handle if you guys want to do so there. I'm on Instagram. I post videos every week. I also have a podcast every Thursday that I drop episodes. So I drop an episode every Thursday morning. I do YouTube and the audio side as well. So Apple, Spotify, wherever you get your podcast, I drop a podcast every week. Usually it is, if you guys don't know, you guys are new here. So I used to play minor league baseball for 7 years. And I have a big network in baseball, and I bring a lot of those guys on to talk. And I do interviews every week with former players, former coaches, sports writers, sports psychologists. I've got a couple of huge NFL players coming. I actually just did an interview. If you guys are old enough to remember Mike Martz, I interviewed him today. So that episode's coming out in a few weeks. He was the architect of the greatest show on turf, as they used to call it, the 99 St. Louis Rams at the time when they won the Super Bowl. So I had him on. That episode's going to be released in a couple weeks. I had Gus Frerotte on, former quarterback. I've had Rashad McCants on, former NBA player, went to UNC North Carolina. I've had a lot of decent names on so far. So, but yeah, definitely check me out on Instagram and on any podcast platform that you guys get your podcasts on. I'm there. So, any questions at all before I move along here? I know there's a big Dodger game that people are watching, so I would definitely want to get back on that. But if you guys don't have any other questions, throw me on the hot seat. All right, Commissioner, let's go. Let me get you in here. I'll put it at 10 minutes, but I don't think it'll be 10 minutes. But I'll give you enough. I'll give you some room. Let's see what you want to talk about. I think this is my first time putting anybody in the hot seat, so let me know. Let me know if you want to get on here. There he is.
Hey, what's going on, Brad?
What's up, man? How are you?
I'm doing all right. This is actually my first time tuning into your show, and I freaking love it. So
Sweet. I'm glad to have you. I appreciate that.
Sports topics and just like hot take after hot take.
I try to stay away from the hot take stuff, honestly. I'm trying to be more factual with it instead of so like Stephen A. hot takes that don't make sense.